Today, we finished covering the GOAT card that was UFC 299, and we're going to break down the inevitable dumpster fire that is UFC Vegas 88. Both of these on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back in it. Today we're going to be breaking down the last half of UFC 299. I know we're getting into it a day late, but you know, your boy got busy. So nevertheless, we're going to break that down. Then we're going to cover UFC Vegas 88, which goes down this Saturday night, which more than likely will be a dumpster fire because it's at the Apex and it is what it is. So let's start out with the remainder of UFC 299. My previous video covers the entire main card, so if you'd like to see that breakdown, just check out the video right before this one. That's going to cover the entire main card. Today what we're going to be going over is, I don't know if we'll go over all of them, but a few fights on the prelim card. So as I check my Fizzone on my Nizzotes, that's a throwback for some of y'all if you've been watching me for a while. Let's look at these fights. So, going down to the prelims, we have Curtis Blaydes goes out there and defeats Jailton Almeida. This fight right here was interesting based out of the outcome. Because in round one, you're watching this and Almeida is doing his normal Almeida thing. And he's holding Curtis Blaydes down. He's grappling him. He's not really doing any damage at all. I mean, he might have snuck in a few elbows or something while he was holding him on the ground. But for the most part, I don't think he landed hardly anything. So you're sitting there, you're watching this during the first round, and you're like, bro, this is going to be another boring Almeida fight. But then there's round two. And round two, what was interesting is at the beginning of this round, Almeida kind of throws a few strikes. He's kind of standing with Curtis. So you're thinking, okay, let's see what's going to happen here. Then he shoots on Curtis again, right? When he shoots on Curtis again, you're thinking, oh, well, might as well go get another beer and go get a snack because we in for a duplicate of round one. Now, here's the thing, because the UFC can never get the correct camera angle on a strike when the commentators ask them to. So there's a question about if when Almeida shot in on Curtis at the beginning of the second round, if Curtis caught him with a sneaky uppercut as he was shooting in, because it seemed like he may have buckled him on the shot. Of course, most of the time when the UFC commentators call this out and they ask the truck to run it back, they never run it back at the right spot of the footage. Or if they run it back, they give them the absolute worst angle. Like the worst angle to try to show this. And you're like, bro, what chimps do you have inside the truck that are supposed to be controlling these cameras? Because it's like, what are y'all doing? I know the UFC is paying y'all enough. It's sold for $4 billion. So y'all should have the best of the best working in the truck. Anyway, Almeida shoots in. Could have been a sneaky uppercut. They caught him as he shot in. But as he comes in, he locks around the waist and the more so of the one of the legs of Curtis Blaydes. Curtis Blaydes backs up against the cage or the octagon. While he's there, Curtis starts doing some down strikes. Again, Almeida is down. I believe he was in on a single. He's down, his head is down, and Curtis starts wham, wham, hitting Almeida with shots that are like right as I turn my head, right behind the ear, around in this area, right? Not the back of the head, but close to it. And next thing you know, he wobbles Almeida like that, and Almeida falls on the ground to his side, and Curtis keeps on delivering those blows and finishes him off. Boom, boom, bam. Curtis Blaydes is now the winner. Shout out to Curtis Blaydes. I picked Almeida going into this, and Had Curtis Blades not got him with those downward strikes when he was in on a single, Almeida would have won this fight. And I can't really hate on Curtis Blades. I can't hate on the fact that Almeida lost, because Almeida needs to work on doing more damage between your submission attempts. Like, bro, if you're going to go in and you're going to completely control these guys, and if you go back, I made a video about this when he fought Derek Lewis. For Almeida, if you're going to go in and you're going to completely dominate these guys on the ground, right? Completely dominate, where he completely neutralizes them where they can't do anything. But at the same time, it's like watching a jiu-jitsu tutorial. He just holds them and holds the wrists and keeps the downward pressure, but he doesn't try to inflict any damage to finish the fight or inflict damage to open them up to then go for the submission. He just holds them, and then out of nowhere he slaps on the submission. And it's like, bro, you know, that does work most of the time, but every now and then, like you saw with Curtis Blades, bro, you did it for too much. When you completely dominated him in the first round, you should have been trying to strike and get him out of there. Anyway, big win by Curtis Blades. Shout out to him. He moves forward. Curtis Blades is kind of a hard guy to dislike because he just seems like he's an awkward dude, but he's a nice dude. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Curtis Blades for going out there and getting the win. Let's move on. Next, we had Caitlin Seminara, formerly Caitlin Chukagan, stepping in there with Macy Barber. I really like this fight because I picked Macy Barber to win this one. I really like this fight because it just shows that Macy Barber is just a little bulldog. You know what I'm saying? Macy Barber runs into the pocket, throwing wild strikes, wild elbows, gets her opponent up against the cage, and just kind of works her game plan from there. And I'm all for it. Now, she can be extremely reckless, so I don't know how well that will ever play out for her being a contender for the title. She's so young and she continues to improve that I believe at some point she probably will fight for the championship. Not anytime soon, but I believe at some point she will, just because the division is not as deep as you might think it is. You know, there's definitely different women that are going to be contenders before her. But I believe eventually, as young as she is, and just by virtue of outlasting a lot of these women via age, eventually she will challenge for the championship. I hope that she cleans up a lot of her recklessness by that point. But shout out to Macy Barber. She goes out there and gets the win in what was a pretty interesting fight, honestly. I mean, it wasn't the most exciting. It wasn't Benoit Saint Denis and Dustin Poirier, but at the same time, it was a pretty good fight. Macy Barber goes out and gets the win, so shout out to her. Then we had Mateus Gamrot go out there and defeat Rafael dos Anjos. This was another good fight. For what it was. I mean, a whole lot of wrestling, a whole lot of grappling, so it wasn't like a ton of action, so to speak, other than the first round when RDA actually wobbled. He actually wobbled Gamrot. So that was pretty cool to see. Just good to see RDA go out there and still inflict damage on guys. But Mateus Gamrot's wrestling is just top tier. It's just top tier. Shout out to Mateus Gamrot. He's always a hyper energetic dude. Kind of reminds me a little bit, as far as his energy, of Clay Guida, because he's always bouncing and hopping, and even on like his post-fight interviews, he's just so hyper. So shout out to him, man. He goes out there, he gets another win. He's not calling for that fight next, but he's definitely saying in his post-fight interview that, you know, eventually he wants to challenge his Polish wrestling against the Dagestani wrestling of Islam Makhachev. So we'll see how all of that plays out. Shout out to Mateus Gamrot. He goes out there, he gets the job done again. Next, we had Pedro Munoz stepping in the octagon with Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips went out there and styled on him. For 3 rounds straight, he kept an energetic, for the most part, all striking-based attack. And it was a lot of kicks, wild strikes, elbows. It was pretty amazing to see that he was able to keep up that pace for 3 rounds straight. So shout out to Kyler Phillips. He goes out there and gets a major win. I feel like Pedro Munoz could have took advantage of the leg strikes, I feel like he could have tried to take advantage of that more, because that's one of his main tools. And I really realized that when watching this fight from last Saturday night, when that tool is taken away, Pedro Munoz doesn't have a ton of ways to set up his offense, or at least not against a rapid striker like Kyler Phillips. So shout out to Phillips. He goes out there and gets the win. We had Cutelaba go in the octagon against Felipe Lins. Felipe Lins gets the win here. Interesting. Cutelaba actually had more of a calm pace in this. He didn't do a lot of rushing or that berserker style that he normally has. He tried that style, I believe around in the 3rd round or so. But for the most part, Felipe Lins was ready for him. And just about anything Cutelaba tried to do, Lins was in on it. He was ready for him. So shout out to Lins. He goes out there and gets the win. I think there's a better balance that Cutelaba could have between his berserker style and his very strategic, like, waiting type style. I think he needed to have a little bit more berserker in him in the 1st and 2nd round, and maybe he could have sealed the deal. But then again, with the leg kicks that Lins was landing on his left leg, as I'm making this video right now, Cutelaba, it wouldn't shock me if his left leg got amputated. It was just a dead limb. You know what I'm saying? This thing was getting chopped. It was getting beat. It was getting battered. His left leg is no longer useful. That man probably going to be able to walk right for at least a month and a half, maybe 2 months. So shout out to Lins. He goes out there. He gets the job done. Next, we have Wildman Michel Pereira goes in the octagon with Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. This fight right here, it was over quick. It ended fast. And it was like the Michel Pereira we've been waiting to see, these last few years at welterweight. Clearly, the move up to middleweight was the best thing for his career. He no longer has to drain himself. He no longer drains his energy with that weight cut. So that was outstanding. He goes out there and gets his fight. Gets it over. He gets him out of there within like 30-something seconds or 40-something seconds. Either way, outstanding fight. Great to see. Choked the man out after, delivering a devastating body shot, right to the liver. Mikhail backs up against the octagon. At that point, Michel starts hits him with a devastating knee to his midsection. When he gets him to the ground, he just mounts him and chokes him out. It was clean cut, quick, and it was over. So shout out to Michel Pereira. He goes out there, gets the win. Definitely a much, much needed addition to the middleweight division. And the last fighter I was going to bring up here real quick, and we're going to move on to the upcoming card. Robelis Despain goes out there and defeats Josh Parisian. Bro, that was just one of those things. This guy, he's got the longest wingspan in the entire UFC from what I understand. Huge prospect, Cuban prospect. The guy is mammoth. He's huge. He goes in there with Parisian. He throws a couple of wild strikes at the very beginning of the fight. Tries a high kick and slips. And you could tell Parisian really thought, he really thought that this was his moment. And he rushed Despain. As Despain got back to his feet, he ran in toward him, rushed him, and Despain just kind of launched 1, 2, bing, and just caught him with a right hand while backing up and laid him out. So that was what it was, man. Shout out to him. He's definitely going to be appointment viewing in the heavyweight division until he runs up against, a really good wrestler, like a Curtis Blades or somebody like that. But nevertheless, man, shout out to him. He goes out there and gets a big win in his debut. So that was pretty cool to see. So from there, we're actually going to move on to UFC Vegas 88 in the Apex, which goes down this Saturday night. We are definitely not going to cover all the fights on this card, but we're going to go over a few. So in the main event of this card, we have Tai Tuivasa stepping in the octagon with Marcin Tybura. Man, I mean, I'm going to go along with Tai Tuivasa on this. I believe that Tai Tuivasa recently has fell victim to heavyweights that have extremely strong offense. Meaning, like, he goes in there with Gane, and Gane is such a good striker, such a skilled, powerful striker that, Tai Tuivasa was just outmatched in that. I believe it's hard for Tai Tuivasa to go in there and do work against a heavyweight that has that really skilled, strategic striking style. Whereas, Tai Tuivasa can be more of a berserker. Or if he goes in there against a heavyweight that implements their offense in a way that he could never get started. Like, it seems like when Tai Tuivasa loses their fights that he could never really get started in. He just he's trying to find his rhythm. He's trying to find his spot, and he never does. Tybura is not that type of a fighter. He doesn't have that type of an offense. So I feel like Tai Tuivasa is going to go out there and probably knock him out. I would say I think he's going to knock him out by the end of the first round, maybe sometime early in the second. But I think Tai Tuivasa is going to get him out of there. So we'll see how it goes, but that's my pick for the main event. Next fight we're going to cover is we have Bryan Battle going in the octagon with Ange Loosa. Man, I'm going to go along with Bryan Battle on this one. I know he's taken a few losses in his UFC career or since coming off the Ultimate Fighter. But man, I think when he's on, he's on. He's a powerful striker. He's long, he has range, and he's pretty good on the grappling front. He's not the best at scrambles, but he's pretty good at grappling. I wouldn't say he's a wrestler, but he can wrestle as well. I'm going to go along with him against Ange Loosa. I think Ange definitely, I believe, in my opinion, for me, he has I think he's going to have the edge on the striking front based on the power that he's able to generate. But I feel like if this fight goes to the ground, or if there's any sort of grappling up against the cage that could lead to the ground, I feel like that's going to be Bryan Battle's wheelhouse against Ange, against this particular opponent. And I think that's where he's going to be able to edge him out. Now, if he chooses to stand with Ange, it could be a quick night for Ange. He could go out there, lay him out, and he's headed to the pay window, if you know what I'm saying. But for real, I'm going to go along with Bryan Battle to go out there and get the win. Next, we have Ovince St. Preux stepping in the octagon with Kennedy Nzechukwu. Look, I mean, this is a no-brainer. We're going along with Kennedy to get the win. How about GM3, Gerald Meerschaert, steps in the octagon with Brian Bam Bam Barberena? What are y'all trying to do on this Apex card? Like, what are y'all trying to... Anyway, I mean, UFC, what are you doing for real, bro? And you do this the week after UFC 299? Like, anyway, I'm going to go along with GM3 to go out there and get the win. I mean, this is probably going to be a sloppy fight. This fight is probably going to be bowling shoe ugly. This fight is probably going to be a slobber knocker, maybe. I don't know. But I'm going to go along with GM3 to get the win here. Next, we have Christian Rodriguez stepping in the octagon with Isaac Dogarian. Man, on this one, so here's the interesting thing. I was going to go along with newcomer Isaac, right? That was what I was thinking. But the thing is, man, the thing is about Christian is a lot of fights that you feel like Christian is not going to win. He ends up pulling it out. This one I'm a little bit torn for real, because I didn't really think Christian Rodriguez was going to beat Raul Rosas Jr., but he definitely did, and he kind of had his way in that fight. But he really had his way in that fight. Now I think about it, that was a tough hang. It was rough to watch, but man, I think I'm gonna go along with Christian Rodriguez and to go out there and get it done. I'm not sure how he's going to get it done, but he's just one of those guys. It's hard to pick against him because you'll pick against him, and the next thing you know, you're sitting there with your head in your hands as the fight is going on, and you're like, Christian Rodriguez is going to pull this one out again. And I'm not a big Christian Rodriguez fan at all, so I'd love to see Isaac go out there and knock him out, frankly. But we'll see how it all goes down. I think I'm going to go along with Christian Rodriguez to go out there and get the win. How about Mike Davis making his return against Natan Levy? I got Mike Davis. I just wanted to bring him up because I've always kind of liked Mike Davis. And, he's missed almost maybe 2 years out of the octagon due to injuries and issues. So it's good to see him back. I think he's going to go out there and make short work of Natan Levy and probably knock him out. So I can't wait to see this and, see how it plays out. Shout out to him making his comeback in the octagon. Josiane Nunes versus Chelsea Handler. I got Josiane Nunes. I like her style. She's so short for the division, but she's just a tank. And when she throws shots, she throws she throws to wreck these women. She's trying to get them out of there and get them out of there quick. She's trying to dent their body, you know what I'm saying? So I like her. She's always going to be at a reach disadvantage and a size disadvantage. So that could always come into play. But I still think that she's going to be able to get past the range of her opponent against Handler. I think she's going to be able to get in to where she's going to be in so close that Handler won't be able to utilize her best striking techniques. So we'll see. Now, maybe there's a world that Handler's been training her wrestling, and maybe she's going to get her to the ground, ride her out for 3 rounds. But I'm going to go along with Nunes to go out there and get the win. Another women's fight. Corey McKenna steps in the octagon with Jacqueline Amorium. I'm going along. I just wanted to bring this fight up because I really like the style of Cody McKenna. She's just barely a prospect at this point. She's so new in her career, but I really like her striking style. I like her fury. I think she's good in scrambles. I think she's comparable in the grappling department. So anxious to see her go out there and do work against Jacqueline. And outside of that, we have a few more names on the card, but it kind of is what it is. Thiago Moises, he's making his return against a short notice opponent, being Mitch Ramirez. Of course, I got Moises in that one. I'm anxious to see Danny Silva, see how he does in his fight. But, man, we'll see how it goes, man. We will see how it goes. It is UFC Vegas 88. It goes down this Saturday. I must admit, I'm not extremely excited about this card, but nevertheless, it's going to give your boy something to watch on a Saturday night, so that'll be pretty cool. Nevertheless, guys, where the train keeps rolling, we got more content, more things to cover. We're still going to be covering Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Joanna Jędrzejczyk again and again and again and again. The Boogie Woman. We're still going to be making a video about her, talking about her going into the UFC Hall of Fame later this year. So that's going to be pretty cool. I'm kind of anxious to talk about her. It won't be a long video. I ain't going to hold y'all. But still, we're going to get into a couple of things. So I'll be right back with you. I appreciate you guys for checking out these videos. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think about these upcoming fights this Saturday night. Or let me know what you thought about some of the prelim fights from UFC 299. And I do want to thank you for checking out another episode of Matter of Fact, MMA. And I check you next time. Peace.